Thank you, Pierre, and that closes the argument for the proposition side. Now we're going to listen to the whip and the last argument from the opposition side. We'll bring back Mr. Michael Dunn doing double duty this evening.
In the words of that great Lothario, Silvio Berlusconi, I'm back! This debate comes down to three key questions. Will our class tensions towards and antipathy towards and animosity even towards the wealthy worse in the in France or in the United Kingdom than they are in France? In France or the United Kingdom, forgive me. Second, okay, is it good for the European Union if the French millionaires leave France and go to Britain? And finally, what will the effects of the French millionaires leaving for the United Kingdom be on the French economy? Will they be positive? Ladies and gentlemen, in the words of a great British Prime Minister, the answer to all three of these questions is no, no, no! So, to begin with, the question of class tension. Brixton, Toxteth, Liverpool, Glasgow, Hull, Skegness, the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. What do these places have in common? They are all places in which mass rioting against the wealthy has occurred in the course of the last 3 years. Okay, this level of animosity and violence towards the wealthy is not present in France, but is in the United Kingdom. Why? 4 reasons. First, the fact that Britain does have an aristocracy, does have a monarchy, is a country that in its very fabric is scarred by class division. We didn't have a 1789, and our society is much worse off for it, because historical tensions dig much deeper. And millionaires coming to Britain simply inflames those tensions further. Second, because, to put it quite simply, the average person in France is 15% better off, no thank you, than the average person in the United Kingdom. So he doesn't feel this same animosity towards the wealthy for stealing his money because he hasn't had as much money stolen, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Britain is a less unequal country, so it has a far lower Gini coefficient, the standard measure of inequality, than France. It has the highest in the Western world, excluding, of course, the United States of America, Peter. As a result, inequality is a much bigger, much hotter political issue in Britain. And finally, government policy, the cutting of welfare, no thank you, to the poor, necessarily inflames these notions of rich people, rich aristocrats failing to deliver on the annual dole. Okay, for these reasons, you are far more likely to face animosity in the United Kingdom than you are in France. But we also heard, no thank you, some ridiculous hyperbole. We heard some ridiculous hyperbole, okay, from the government. We heard how there is going to be a revolution in France, and we say that this simply is not the case. Why? Because in the French Revolution, Mr. Speaker, French people didn't have any food. The reason Marie Antoinette said, your ancestors said, let them eat cake, is because they had no bread. We simply do not see the same level of deprivation in France today. It means that revolution is extremely unlikely. No thank you. Finally, we heard this notion about how the French are going to make Britain French, and why this would be a good thing. First off, sorry, this wouldn't be a good thing. Your women don't shave under their armpits. Sorry. I'm sorry. Your clothing is Chinese. Your clothing is overpriced. Okay, I'm sorry, and that really plays into the point. That really plays into this point. Britain is a very multicultural society. We've had tremendous influx, no thank you, of Russians into the United Kingdom over the course of the last few years. And we haven't seen people eating beef stroganoff in English restaurants. Why? Because, to put it quite simply, foreign stuff is expensive. People aren't going to be buying La Durée macaroons in Manchester because, to put it bluntly, La Durée macaroons cost more than the annual income in the United Kingdom. Go.
Explain your obsession with the rich. Explain Pepper. Explain Tatler.
The reason we have Pippa and... So it is true that a bunch of aspirant middle-class people do read Tatler. Fine. We concede that. Okay? But the point here is that the vast majority of the country don't read Tatler. Because, quite simply, the £7.50 it costs per week is too much for most people to pay. And it is that level of relative deprivation compared to France that means that the rich are more likely to be blamed for people's economic ills. Because, quite simply, there are more economic ills. finally, the effects on the French national economy versus the English. So we've heard a mixed characterization of millionaires from the government. They've said first they're indolent speculators, then we've heard they're hard workers from the second speaker. Which is it, guys? The answer is they're hard workers. Because they're not just 10 people. There are 2.3 million dollar millionaires in France, ladies and gentlemen. Doctors, entrepreneurs, inventors, investors, okay? And the thing is, when these people leave France, their skills leave too. So all of the valuable functions they perform for everyone leave too. And this leads, ladies and gentlemen, to greater resentment. Because when you can't find a doctor, okay, and you can't find someone to invest in your business, you begin to get angry. And that's when we see the sort of rioting social change that proposition are so scared of. That's when we see the revolution and the storming of the Bastille. So the loss of skilled workers will in fact damage the French in a million different ways. And that's why we on this side of the House are so proud to oppose this motion. Thank you, and good evening.